today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about how to reclaim connection and respect when you feel like your freedom has slipped away and you're living like a roommate. We need to remain attentive, not only to our work, but we need to be attentive to the needs of our family. We need to be attentive to the needs of our wife and our children. What if you could reclaim your sense of freedom and respect in your marriage without sacrificing the connection that you long for? Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today the topic is Lost in My Marriage, Reclaiming Freedom and Respect. Have you ever had this thought that you used to feel like a hero, but now you feel invisible? Everything you do seems to go unnoticed, and you can't even enjoy your own time now without feeling guilty, like you're doing something wrong? Well, what if you could reclaim your sense of freedom and respect in your marriage without sacrificing the connection that you long for? Very often, as men, what we experience is when we advocate for self expression and respect, our wives feel we're criticizing them. Our wives feel we're pushing them away. Our wives feel we're separating ourselves from themselves. Well, what if you could have those things and actually get closer? That's what this episode is all about. You're working hard, but does it feel like anyone is noticing how hard you work? In fact, they are. They're complaining that you're gone all the time. They're complaining that you're not as present with the kids that you could as you could be. They're complaining that you're not present for them in the way you could be. They're complaining that you don't help out around the house enough and you're working your tail off just trying to provide. Feeling unappreciated is super common, right? And here's the source. Husbands, we feel like we're trained, we're taught, and maybe even it might even be in our genes, the concept that we need to provide, the concept that we need to protect, and the concept that we need to serve. And we often misinterpret service through providing and protecting. We go so wrapped up in the day-to-day showing up at the job and getting things done and getting a paycheck. We get so wrapped up on, oh my God, let's get a better car. Oh my God, we need to improve this house. Oh my God, if I don't earn some money, we won't get these things done, that we start to lose sight of the full meaning of serve. And the full meaning of serve is that we need to remain attentive, not only to our work, but not only our own needs. And sometimes we neglect our own needs for work, but we need to be attentive to the needs of our family. We need to be attentive to the needs of our wife and our children. And we often don't know how, because guess what, guys? It's not your fault. Nobody taught you how. Our parents often provided role models for us, sometimes strong, in some areas, not so much, right? No one's a perfect parent. And so the very things that your wife is picking on you for and criticizing you for are probably the very things that your dad got nailed for also, or maybe your mom. You know, you might be channeling some of the strategies of your mom. It's not like there are distinctly things that are male and distinctly things that are female. There are just distinct ways that we express ourselves, and masculinity is a channel and femininity is a channel. And if you're born in a body that's got masculine attributes, you're going to tend to express things in a masculine way. And if you're born in a body that has feminine attributes, you're going to tend to express them in a female way. Not about what you do, it's about the way that you do it. And part of the problem, as we've talked about in previous episodes, is communication. Very often, brains that have evolved in estrogen are wired differently than brains that are evolved in testosterone. Basically, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. That's not news to you. Part of it is that you say one thing, she hears another. She says one thing, you hear another, and you don't understand how you're missing each other. But part of it also is that you think you're doing what you're supposed to do, and they have a different idea maybe of what they should look like. Not that they don't appreciate that you earn, not that they don't appreciate that you protect, not that they don't appreciate the ways that you serve, but something's missing. Do you remember when you could make plans without checking in first? Let's talk a little about the fear of loss of freedom or autonomy in marriage. You know, very often what happens, not just because of these miscommunications, but very often what happens is we get locked in the myth of happy wife, happy life. Well, it's not a myth, it's a misconception. We think that we need to sacrifice our autonomy, sacrifice the things that we like to do, sacrifice the things that are important to us to make her happy. And that's not how this works. What it's really about is getting our needs on the table, her needs on the table, and the family's needs on the table, and figuring out a way to balance them so that we have time that we feel free to use for our own endeavors, so that she has time to feel free to use for her own endeavors, and there's no misunderstanding. A way that I explain this is in the ideal financial relationship between a man and a woman, um, there's a joint account and there are two separate individual accounts. And the income of both people, maybe one person's earning, maybe both people are earning, a certain percentage goes into the joint account, a certain percentage goes into each individual account. And those individuals get to use that money in the individual account any way they want. That's autonomy, but it's budgeted autonomy, all right? Budgeted financial autonomy. Well, similarly, there needs to be budgeted time autonomy. Time is actually more valuable than money. So if you feel like you're spending your whole life working and whole life showing up for your family, and you feel like you have to ask for permission, you need to renegotiate the structure of time with your partner so that you have time where you take care of yourselves, mental, physical, emotional self-care, so that you have time where you take care of your relationship because there's synergy that happens in the relationship, so that you have time where you individually and together take care of the family needs, or et cetera, and still have extra time for whatever you want, whether it be bowling or shooting or gardening or working on the house or doing something special for your partner with your time. Whatever you want to do with it, you should be able to do with it. And so should she, by the way. When was the last time you felt like more than just someone who shares a house, like a roommate? You know, what happens as we deny ourselves self care or special time, or where our sense of autonomy is being impinged on because we've overcommitted? What happens is we start to resent the other person and we start scrambling to live for personal fulfillment, and we start neglecting the relationship. In fact, typically, the way this shows up is you have some kids and you scramble to figure out how to take care of those kids. And if you don't have a game plan for how both of you are going to take care of the kids together and separately, that includes self care and that includes some autonomy, what's going to happen is you're going to focus more and more on getting things done, checking off that to do list. And you will get things done, but in a parallel way instead of in a symbiotic way. This experience where you wake up and look over and go, "How did I get here? Who is this person?" You cannot allow it to go on for too terribly long. And the reason why, men, I'm talking to you on this, but women also, the biology of the estrogen based brain is that it focuses on environment and ecology more than direction. Women generally will not allow facets of their home life or any community they're a part of to be neglected over getting somewhere. Unless they're kind of alpha females who have learned to kick butt in a male dominated company, then they have adapted to a male way of thinking. Male brains tend to be very goal oriented, and we are less aware of the environment, the ecology, the details of our lives, and sometimes we neglect aspects of it. And so when we lead our wives and our family in a checklist mentality, which is a distinctly male approach, right? We lead our family into maybe a high level of functionality in terms of getting things done. It's very transactionally minded, but we lose sight of a fulfillment mindset. A fulfillment mindset meaning that promise and synergy of the relationship is being neglected. And so when we live transactionally, checklisty, all right, when we lead the marriage that way, our wife will allow us to do it. She'll complain about it. She'll poke us when our needs aren't being met, but she will allow us because we are the goal oriented creature and that our tendency is to be goal oriented. And she, as the environmentally oriented person, is going to 9 times out of 10 bow to that She won't like it, but she'll bow to it. What we need to do is we need to make the relationship a priority. As leaders of our household, leaders in the sense that we're freaking trains on tracks and have to have stations. We have to change the station from getting things done to how we get it done. And we have to actually invite our wives into coaching us on what we might be neglecting. We need to humbly surrender to them in this regard and ask them to refocus the station that we're going to. Tell them, honey, I get it. I've been all about making money, paying the bills, making sure we had a nice house, making sure that we had a good car, and I have neglected our marriage. I haven't shown up for the kids the way you know I should, but and I don't the truth is I'm just not as I'm not as aware of that as I need to be. I need your help with this. Help me to redefine the station our train is going to, right? Real leadership in a partnership is allowing your partner to lead in their strengths, right? A partnership is two people who have equal power, but different strengths and abilities. And what's happening, guys, is we've been defining marriage by a male set of strengths and abilities and disempowering our wives in the process. We need to invite them to the table. And for whatever reason, they allow us to do that. They allow us to do it until they hit us with divorce papers. And by the way, if you've been hit with divorce papers or if your wife is bandying the D word around, it does not mean she wants to get away from you. It means she wants the relationship to change. She wants you to do what I'm talking about right now. What if reclaiming yourself could also reignite your marriage? Why would I frame it that way? Because men and women have male and female qualities inside of them. And over the thousands of years that Western culture has had a male dominated society, women have done a great job of developing their masculine side. But because we have been operating in a masculine frame, we have done, most of us, a crappy job of developing our feminine frame. Reigniting your marriage is about reclaiming all of who you are. And just to be clear, what do I mean by a masculine and feminine self? That sounds kind of vague. Let me put it to you this way. You had a mom and a dad and you internalized both of them. Your mom had female qualities, your dad had masculine qualities, and you internalized both of them. They're in you. And so, if you want to be a whole and complete human being, you need to give your mom as much of a voice inside of you as your dad. You need to embrace your feminine side equally to your masculine side. Not that one is better than the other, but get that she has strengths that he does not, and he has strengths that she does not. And truthfully, if you go to your wife and say, I was listening to this podcast by this guy, Rich Heller, and he says the reason why our marriage is upside down is that I've been leading this in a masculine way. You take over. That is a cop out. That is not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for here is that you start to develop and grow yourself as a whole and complete human being who had a mother and a father, as a whole and complete human being who not only has a need to evolve and grow in the workplace, develop your skills, talents, and innate abilities, but also develop that part of yourself that you were exploring when you were in love, that part of yourself that loves and cherishes your partner, that part of yourself that is invested in her growth, that part of yourself that is invested in her success. Part of a successful relationship is not just checking the boxes, but being invested in each other's fulfillment, personal, professional, and any other way you can think of. So we're going to keep digging into this. This series is geared for men, but I'm hoping if you're a woman and you're hearing this, that you're getting it. Maybe you have a man in your life that you want to send this way. If you like what you're hearing here, I want you to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, I want you to share it. And I look forward to seeing you at the next episode of Rich in Relationship. And in the meantime, have an excellent day and a wonderful tomorrow.